Welcome everyone to OAG Consulting's interview of President and CEO of Titan NRG, Alex Majalca Jr. I'm your host, Josh Miller, and we're happy to have the opportunity to bring to you today the highly anticipated interview to break down not only the company, but the process you and the company have had to go through to go public.
Josh, thanks for having me. My name's Alex Majalca, President and CEO of AgriSolar Solutions, soon to be Titan NRG.
Excellent. Well, let's get this interview started. Can you give us some background on yourself and the team you have? Who makes up Titan NRG and where did this all start?
I have about 25 years of experience in the propane industry, pretty much done everything there is to do as far as propane's concerned, all the way from vehicle systems to commercial heat, retail applications for homes, appliances, trucking, transportation. Now we're into rail. So, I've done quite a few things, when it comes to propane. As far as Titan NRG, we have a pretty good team. I've got a lot of office personnel and people like that have been with me for a long, long time. 10 plus years, in my retail office and the NRG office. Very good people, very loyal, very good at their jobs. As far as NRG dynamics, I've got Brandon Burdine over there, is a very tenured person as far as trucking. Was with AmeriGas for some time, so I got some really good people. As far as our executives, me and Henry really was one of the people that from early on, really shaped us, as far as companies come, and he really saw us grow from what we were to where we are now, and he was quite instrumental in a lot of that. So, it was an easy decision for us when we decided to do this thing that, to try to bring him on just because of his background and how long he'd been doing, the financial side of things and his experience and all that. So as far as starting, we're really just a, small family-owned, operated company. All the things that we've done, all these companies that we have, they were homegrown, started from scratch. One day they weren't non-existent, and then the next day, we're up and running. So way back when, we started converting diesels to run on propane. We had heard from an old farmer, just a couple of kids, we've always kind of been into motorsports, but a couple of kids, we wanted to get to the dunes faster. And over here in this part of the country is the Imperial Dunes, which are, just into California, a little bit west of Yuma.
Okay.
And so, yeah, we wanted to get there to go ride, we wanted to go faster. So this old farmer told us that propane, you put propane on a diesel, it's like nitrous for a car. And so we tried it out, and sure enough, that diesel, we could zoom over there fast and get to riding, and so, that's how we fell in love with propane, ever since then. Always loved dealing with that fuel. And, from there, it kind of morphed into converting gasoline engines into what's called a biofuel vehicle. Shortly after that, the state of Arizona had this program where if you bought a brand new vehicle that was converted to a biofuel, they gave you this huge credit. And when they originally wrote the legislation, they thought, they were expecting to do maybe a total of like 1,700 vehicles or I don't remember the number. It was something small like that. They thought that they were just, trying to, get some what they call green vehicles out there, basically. At the time they were called alternative fuel vehicles. And so what happened when the legislation and the people of Arizona started finding out, I think they had like 17,000 orders in like the first week or something like that.
Wow, that's crazy.
It was crazy, and we got hooked up with one of the larger dealerships there in Phoenix, and they were just bringing trucks they couldn't bring us SUVs fast enough. I mean, we were converting something like 7 a day or
Wow.
something like that, 6 days a week. Yeah, it was just
That's one way to get
crazy.
started.
But
Yeah.
yeah, and it was a good jump start, and it was a good shot in the arm, and we didn't. I mean, we just, we were so young, we just didn't know what we had stumbled on. But unfortunately, I mean, it nearly bankrupted the state.
Oh, yeah.
so so the program didn't last very long. I think it lasted a year, maybe a year and a half or something like that. And so, we're all looking at each other and we're like, what the heck are we gonna do?
Yeah.
And so then, we start searching around, and Tucson has a very good outlying community, kind of spread out. These outlying communities like Vale and Three Points and all, Picture Rocks, there's not any natural gas out there. It's very, very limited. So if you want gas, you have to go with bottled gas, which is propane. And to
Yep.
me, that just blew my mind, because I had never known that people actually use fuel to heat, water heaters, and heat their water, and keep their homes warm, and
Yeah.
cook with it. I mean, that just totally blew my mind, because I had always been on the vehicle side of things. So that's what we did. So we took what we had and built ourselves a crane truck, and got ourselves a load of tanks, and signed for a bobtail, and called it APE Fuels, and off we went, started setting tanks. And that really was, the retail company APE Fuels really was the first thing that we did. I mean, even though we were pretty successful in the converting, that retail company really laid the foundation for everything that we've done today. And a lot of heart and soul and blood, sweat, and tears went into that company, to make it what it is today. Yeah, and I mean, it really was the foundation that laid everything that's allowed us to do everything that we're doing today.
That's awesome.
So yeah, so we're going along, and we start getting bigger with the retail company, and we're getting loads of fuel brought in, and the supplier, we're talking with the supplier, and he's like, yeah, I'm like, I'd call him, hey, need a load for Thursday or something. This is on a Monday, right? And he'd be like, oh man, I don't know if we can get it there. And like, what do you mean you don't know? Oh, trucking's really tight. There's just not enough trucks out there and things like that. So we started kicking around the idea, well, maybe we just need to buy our own truck and trailer.
Yep.
And I mean, we weren't thinking that big at the time, right? We're thinking, okay, we're just trying to grow this thing that we have called APE Fuels, and make sure that it's stable. So we go and we start looking at buying a truck and a trailer, and I let the supplier know, and he's like, well, if you got a truck or two, I mean, I could probably keep it busy with, bringing fuel. And then boom, it sparked the idea, and so then around 2014, we actually started trucking for fuel, as a common carrier. So, got that thing going and running and up and growing, and, bringing on owner operators and buying some company trucks. And, here we are somewhere, I think we're around 25 trucks now in 9 states.
Wow.
So, that's, yeah, I mean, for the relatively short time that we did that in, we're pretty proud of that,
That's an incredible story.
Yeah, and right around I would say the late, around 2019, I think, and we had always talked about this when we were kids, but in 2019 is when, Chad started getting, well, I'd say around 2000, he started kind of getting these properties together, because he had to buy one from one person, buy one from another person, and then combine it, and then go through and do all the, dealing with the county and merging everything, and
bring it all together.
It was pretty painstaking before we could even start, the rail stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, he was able to pull it together. And I'd say about 2019, I think we started the construction of the rail spur. I remember getting our first car in there. I think it was the end of 2020. I mean, just recently, it's because we had all the kids there, and yeah, it was, it was really a landmark accomplishment for us, especially as a family.
Oh, definitely. Can only
to
imagine.
be able to do that, So yeah, pretty proud of that. So yeah, so that's how everything kind of came together, kind of started, and here we are. We're still kind of kicking along. So.
That's I love the story. You referred to the delivery trucks and everything as APE fuels, but everybody on the
Right.
internet knows it as ape fuels. I got to ask,
Yes.
where did the ape come from, and whose idea was it?
So, when I was talking about the vehicle conversions, the name of that company that we did that in was Alternative Power Engineering.
Okay.
So that's where the ape came from. When we started the retail business, we were thinking, we might actually sell other fuels like race fuels and things like that because we're into motorsports at the same time, right?
Yeah.
We just didn't want to limit ourselves on what it was that we could do or sell with that business without having to like create a bunch more businesses. So that's kind of how we came up with the name Ape Fuels. When we started getting out there and setting the tanks in these rural areas, we never saw it as ape, because to us it was always alternative power
Yeah.
or
Yeah. Of course.
APE. But when we got out there, people just started calling us the apes, and so we tried hard not to, you know what I mean? We would correct
Yeah.
people, no, it's not apes, it's APE, it's APE, it's APE. And if you were to call the office, during regular hours, those girls are going to answer the phone APE. They're not going to answer it ape,
Yeah. Of course.
because that's how it started. I mean, we were alternative power engineering, and that's what, even to this day, when you call, the phone gets answered APE. But, I mean, we couldn't fight it. I mean, everybody, it didn't
Yeah.
matter
It just
where
kind of
we
takes
were. Oh,
over.
the apes are here. The apes are here. Yeah, they took over. And so we embraced it. Had a acquaintance friend of ours, really, really talented guy. We said, look, here's our current logo. We're thinking we're going to change our logo, but we'd like to build, something iconic, you know what I mean, for people. So that way
Oh,
they don't
definitely.
have to read the logo. If they see the ape, they know who's coming. They know who's coming
Yeah. Exactly.
to come service them. They know who's rolling down the road, but we don't want something too aggressive, but we don't want something, we want something strong. And so he's like, great, okay, yeah, let me throw in some sketches. And I mean, his first sketch, I mean, it was almost to what we have right here. I mean, he hit it right off the bat,
That's
you know.
awesome.
And so then I'm like, man, and at the time we'd always give each other thumbs ups, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
you keep everybody propped up and excited and everything. And so we're like, man, if he had a big thumbs up, that would be awesome, right? And so that's what he did. He drew in the big thumbs up and drew the whole ape. And I actually have that original sketch still hanging in the office there in the front of retail. It's
That is really
framed
cool.
and yeah, sitting in there. So, you ever come by and you come in the office, you look around, you'll see those original sketches hanging there in that office.
I love it.
We just, we embraced it, had the logo drawn and it became iconic and, everybody seems to love it. So, we don't
Definitely, it's
fight it.
definitely, and it's definitely done well. I mean, investors seem to love it as well. It's one of those things that just resonates with people. And of course, now you
Yeah.
have all the talk of apes in the market and all that kind of stuff.
Oh
it's
yeah,
just it's
and
perfect timing, perfect place. So
right, yeah.
very cool. Can you take us through the process of merging the company over the past year? I know it's been a painstaking process, and it seems like it's going on
Oh
forever.
man. Yeah, so I mean there's so much paperwork involved. A lot of it is hurry up and wait. I've always said, the wheels of bureaucracy turn slow.
Yep.
So you'll flip, you get them what they want and then they need this changed or nope, they need this now or, okay, we're past this now onto this regulatory body, you know. So yeah, it's just been really, really tough. But, really the first thing in getting it all done, we had to acquire the decision was really, are we going to acquire a shell company or are we going to try to do just like an IPO, a fresh start? Um, and, we ended up deciding on getting a shell, got that from Benjamin Berry there at Synergy, and we had to make sure that what we were doing, putting these companies in for the public space that, everything was going to be, that shell was going to be viable. I mean, after all, this is a family's life work. You know what I mean? So we want to make sure we're doing everything right, make sure everything is proper before we're putting, all these assets and a company that's already moving along. You know, so yeah, I mean, it was, that was pretty tough. And then the shell that we did have, we had some legacy shareholders from previous management, so we had to come up with a strategy for that. There was some share structure issues that we had to work on and get put together, and get it ready, just for what it was, and then, set it up for the future merger. So, I mean, I had attorneys going in Colorado, Wyoming, Georgia, all at once, trying to, all
Wow.
these different tops just spinning, trying to get, this shell viable for us to be able to, even do anything with it.
Yeah, of
And
course.
that was just on the public side. Now on the private side, we had companies, all these companies weren't under one conglomerate, like, we had one company under one conglomerate, and then we had a couple other another conglomerate, and we had to pull and spin and do all these different things to get it all into, one company that was be able to accept a merger, dealing with all that and how's this going to work and who's going to own what, and that, there was a lot of planning and discussion on how, all this was going to lay out and work. So yeah, it was man, it was
It,
tough, especially because, with us being a private company for so long, you tend to have a little more freedom how you operate.
yep.
And when you're in the public space, I mean, all that stuff's got to be perfect, cut and dry, dot your I's, cross the T's. You know what I mean? So
No, yeah,
so it took
absolutely.
some time to get everything all, combined properly and ready for merger, and make sure, we got the right, ink, taking over an ink, make sure we're doing all this stuff properly. So we
Well,
kept working through it, and, and here we are. I feel like we got it pretty solid now. So.
no, you definitely do. And I mean, and during that entire time, I mean, the clues were there for what was going to be coming into AgriSolar Solutions. And I'm sure just with investors trying to, banging down your door, trying to, get, questions answered, stuff like that, on top of
Yeah.
everything you were doing. I can't
Right.
imagine.
Right. Well, and so you forget, you think about all the stuff that we were doing just to get that properly. Well, there's still a business that's running still that we have to
Yeah,
run the
exactly.
business too on top of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, so I mean it was, I could tell, some of the investors were getting frustrated because we weren't talking about this and doing that. And I mean, and for us, it was just, listen, at the end of the day, this thing's gonna be a good thing, but we have to keep our head down. We have to keep concentrating on what we're doing here,
Yep.
because this is a big deal.
Definitely. Like you said, it's your life's work.
Yeah, and so yeah, I mean, we had to make sure everything was right. You know what I mean? Because I mean, like I said, I mean, this is we started all this stuff from scratch, and everybody's got, I would say, there's sentimental value in that as well,
Absolutely.
because we did start them from scratch. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And we built these things from nothing into what they are today. So yeah, I mean, maybe we were a little overly cautious, but I mean, I think you can understand why.
Oh, definitely. So you got Titan NRG, NRG Dynamics, NRG Rail, Vespine, 8 Fuels. How does this all work synergistically? And can you replicate it in other areas? How does this all come together?
Vespine is the wholesale side of things. They're the ones that'll go outsource the product. So whether it's coming from North Dakota, South Dakota, Canada, wherever that is, Vespine will source the product. Then they'll figure out if it's close by. Maybe it's Plains, only a couple hours away or something like that. Then maybe we just go get it by truck. So we'll send NRG Dynamics, go up and go get the product, bring it back. If it's further than that, then we'll bring it in rail. So Vespine and rail get involved, and then NRG goes across the street, picks it up from rail, and then brings it back across the street. Then we'll transfer that product to 8 Fuels for the end user consumption. And so basically, we get it covered from just about production, all the way down to that end user use, and so we cover everything in between. And yeah, just we're getting it from the rooter to the
Love it.
tutor.
So one thing, and I see this all the time online, and I was even making this mistake in the beginning, but can you give us some insight into the LPG market? A lot of people confuse it with the LNG market, but
Right.
there's different, obviously there's a big difference.
Yeah, so LNGs. I guess it falls under that whole market. It's just because, when everybody thinks about propane, but really it's actually an LPG. But when you think of the liquid gas markets, usually LNGs are, we kind of get filed under that market. So there's two ways really, two major ways that you get propane here in the United States. One is either comes off of crude and it's cracked, at a refinery or something like that, or it's coming off the fracking, depending on methane content and all that stuff. It's scrubbed off of that and taken to a facility or something, and then made into a spec gas. So the problem with that is that for whatever reason, if crude is up, propane is up. If natural gas goes up, then propane goes up. If natural gas is up but crude is down, well, propane goes ahead and stays up. If crude goes up but natural gas is down, well, propane goes ahead and stays up. So we don't, it doesn't seem to matter. I'm not saying that's 100% true all of the time, but
Yeah,
I think you understand what I'm saying is that, it seems like it doesn't matter what's going up, it seems like propane's always going up.
yeah,
But, as far as the West is concerned out here, we don't have a lot of pipelines like you do, in the Midwest and especially in the East there. So, storage really is a big deal out here. There's some major storages around. There's two major ones here in Arizona. There's one in West Phoenix and one up northern Arizona. One in New Mexico and then one in Utah. And that those places, other than picking up directly from a refinery somewhere, I mean, those are most of the places that fuel a lot of the West here, where we're at predominantly, I would say. So, typically these storages, they fill them up during the summer months. They'll bring in gas from North Dakota or Canada or wherever it is that they've sourced the gas, and they fill them up. And I mean, we're talking pretty good. I mean, we're talking 150 million gallons,
wow,
storage, at each place here. You know what I mean? And then they'll try to get them filled up. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I think this year, storages were down if you were looking at, the EIA reports and stuff like that. So
yeah.
I don't think everybody quite got filled up this year. And then, in the wintertime, then we draw them down, and then pretty much rinse and repeat, and that's what happens, every year. So,
Wow. I think that was one of my biggest shocks is it was if you look at the map of the US and you look at the pipeline maps, there's like very
yeah,
clear divide. When you hit the Rocky Mountains, there's just nothing.
yep,
And
there
everything,
really isn't.
yeah, and everything from, east on from there. I mean, it's just pipelines everywhere you go. But I
Yeah,
so getting to understand how crucial storage is to the West Coast,
yes.
I think that's a big
Yes,
point. And that,
storage and rail. I mean, you can have storage, but if you can't get the gas to it, that's a major issue. You
yeah,
know what I mean?
if it's not economical,
Um, no, and the unit there in West Phoenix. I mean, the place where they unload the rail cars is like 5 miles away. I mean, they pump it from 5 miles away down into these salt caverns.
oh wow.
Yeah, because that's where they can get the rail, and that's where the storage is. So I mean, it's that tells you anything of how things have been done for so long here in the West. I mean, that's probably a prime example of how things are done.
Jeez. So going forward, I guess, what are your growth goals in the next term, in the near term, in the long term? Do you plan to stay organic or focus on acquisitions?
It's a good question. You know, Gaining market share, it's always been tough no matter, what direction you concentrate on. In this industry, in my years, I've seen companies been successful, on both sides. You got, AmeriGas, that's their strategy, growth by acquisition. You got other companies, like Farrell, when it first started, it was very organic in growth, you know.
Yep.
So, and they're 1 and 2 in the world, So, I think either strategy works well, you know what I mean? But what works for us in the near and the long term, it's going to be tough to say. Since we've always started our companies from scratch, I mean, we've always done organic growth. So we know organic growth. And to me, it seems like the organic growth typically has better staying power.
Yeah.
As far as, building a foundation for a company and making sure that company performs year over year over year over year. But that's not to say that good strategic acquisitions don't have its benefits as well, And it depends definitely, on the market area that we're looking at,
Yeah.
who's there and who we competing against. That's always a tough one because, it's just you don't know if how you're competing against these other mom and pops or you're competing against conglomerates and things like that.
Yeah.
So there's some strategy that goes into it when you start looking at acquisitions and and I think we have a good handle on that. If we're see something that becomes available or somebody that's wanting to get out of market, we've got enough experience and tenure to go in and look at that market and say, yeah, this could be a very good thing, it's very viable. Or, we've got every Tom, Dick, and Harry, mom and pop in the area. I mean, this is going to be tough. You know what I mean?
Oh, definitely.
So I would say that, I think we have enough experience in the market. If somebody wants to get out of the market and we're looking at that market, that, this could be a good thing or it's just going to be a tough area.
And I think, especially when it comes from, a public side of things, investors are always looking for, especially in the OTCs, something that's got organic growth, and they don't come along very often. You definitely don't get a company that's been, built from the ground up for 20 years before, merging into something like
Right.
this.
Well, and I think, that a combination of both is probably what our strategy will be going forward. I think organic growth is probably one of the toughest things to do, and that's the thing that we're good at. So I think we kind of got a leg up,
Oh,
maybe an
definitely.
edge on competition there because we can, if there isn't acquisitions out there to take, well, that doesn't mean we're going to stop growing. We just continue to do our organic growth. Acquisition definitely can speed up that size of a company, real quickly. So, yeah, I think that going forward, we'll be looking. We're not going to turn a blind eye to acquisitions or anything like that. I think definitely it'll be a combination of both.
Excellent. Well, it seems like you got a good eye for what you want to do.
Yeah.
As far as the organic growth side of things, where are you guys at currently with the Tucson rail yard development?
So it's operational now. Like I said, we got that first car, right around Christmas. So we've been bringing in rail cars. There's a little small office on site. We got the truck scale, transloaders operational. So for those that don't know what a transloader is, that's what connects to the rail car and then connects to the transport truck, and that's how you move the gas from rail car to truck. The development plan for the whole property has been approved. For some time. That's about 1.3 million gallons of storage there for propane. As far as putting all that in, I don't know. I think it'll probably be in stages. What we'll do and kind of see, what the consumption is. We can get quite a bit done, probably with 2 or even 4 90s or something like that. When I say 90s, 90,000 gallon tanks.
Okay.
So being able to move that across. Now, as far as construction, it's just about finalized. Kind of know where we want to start. Either 2 or 4 90s. Get those in there. Get to moving some gas through there. So, but I mean, like I was telling you about our, the merger and things like that. I mean, it's been so time consuming that we got to get the merger done and get everything finalized, kind of settle in there, and then we can concentrate back on that, getting the rail up and our growth strategies and all that good stuff.
What are the main reasons for going public? Titan seems to be a successful private business through organic growth. The share structure is very attractive for short and long-term investors. However, the OTC struggles with loyalty from investors. How do you as a company plan to overcome this?
We've been successful in, most of what we do. Not everything's been 100% successful. Typically when we stay, dealing with, propane and all these synergies with it, we've been pretty successful. We're pretty goal oriented, I think, really is thing that kind of drives all this. We got some big dreamers here. I'd say one of the biggest reasons for us going public was the access to capital. Being able to accomplish some of these goals that we've been wanting to do for a long time. Having a good funding source in the private market, it's not easy. Anybody that's ever tried to get an SBA loan or something like that, it really is a bunch of hoops, and not to say that going public didn't create a bunch of hoops, but it just feels like, we just have, so we really opened ourselves up to be able to, gain access to good funding sources. I'd say another good reason that we decided to go public was, company valuation. In the private markets, company like ours, if you're lucky, you get, 4 to 7, maybe 8 times EBITDA or something like that, and that's with the right buyer and things like that. It's very, very specific, very, you're pretty well limited to who it is that you can sell. The public space, multiples, they tend to be much higher, and it really depends on the market. You'll see, during the tech boom, you saw some price earning ratios that were just astronomical, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen with us, you know what I mean? But the opportunity is there. Whereas if we're private, you'd never have that opportunity. So
No.
I think we just wanted to give ourselves that opportunity to be able to get some good valuation for everything that we've done and worked for.
Okay.
So when you get higher, it's good for everyone involved. As far as OTC loyalty, that's a tough question. I would say that there's maybe a broader issue with loyalty to just in general, investors' loyalty to a company. It seems to me that, a lot of investors are just always looking for the next hot thing. And I think that happens no matter what, whether you're looking at NASDAQ or NYC or S&P or crypto or, social media or tech or whatever it is. You know what I mean?
I agree with you.
I think you'll see that no matter what. So, we just keep our head down and just do what we do. Make the companies perform year over year over year. And I think when investors see that we're just solid year over year over year, I think that's how you keep investors, engaged, I guess, or staying with us, and once we get all that in place, then I think everything else just kind of falls into place. So.
I like it. Your share structure is very low for an OTC ticker. Is there dilution planned in the near term? If so, for what purpose? Would it be acquisitions, expansion? How do you kind of navigate through this?
Well, that's a tough one also. We're getting to the tough questions now.
Yep. There had to come a time. We had all the softballs.
So, low float, man, it's tough. Like ours is really pretty low. And the stock it can take off like a rocket, right? The problem with that, it's a double-edged sword, right? Because it can fall just as quickly as it went up.
Oh yeah, we've witnessed it over the past year.
We've witnessed it, right? Yeah, right. So for us, the way we're looking at it, in order to be able to attract new and larger investors, we need to be able to get that volume up. But we're so low right now in our float that everybody's holding on to it so tightly that it's tough for anybody to get in if they want.
Yep.
So we'll just have to figure out the best way to make a win-win situation here for the current shareholders, new shareholders and investors coming in, and the company as well. And that's definitely not an easy task. That's probably the next big thing that we really need to put all our heads together and say, okay, this is going to be the best way to make this work for everybody, so that way, we have something viable and keep that stock up and steady. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think you guys did, when you adjusted the authorized shares, I think you did good by OTC standards. You guys kept it under, a billion authorized shares. I think you're at 850 million. A
Right.
lot of companies we see merge into the OTC, and they'll come in, they'll take over a stock, and all of a sudden you've got a 10 billion authorized shares, and everybody knows what's coming immediately, right? So,
Right. Right. Right.
you guys know you have value. You're in a good place, and you went through and structured it smartly, to be good for
Right.
the OTC
Right.
investor.
Yeah, we really did take a lot of time in thinking about that and how to structure that properly, because there's a lot of factors that go into that. So we took a lot of input from a lot of different people. You know what I mean, on what we thought was best and how. And so, and I don't know if we did it perfectly, but I feel pretty confident that we did a pretty good job and be able to accomplish what we need to accomplish without telling the investors we're going to come in and just dilute you to nothing. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
man. Nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to hear that, of course.
No,
Uh,
and that's what we're trying to maintain a healthy stock and do right by the investors. And and I think we've shown that, especially with the cancellation of the shares and things like that. So yeah, we really do want to do right by the people that believe in us.
Definitely, and I do want to get, later on. I do want to get into the share cancellation. I mean, that's been
Okay,
a
yeah,
big
yeah.
a big topic
Mhm.
for everybody. I do want to go back to Titan NRG. What kind of contracts Titan NRG already have? I mean, who are you guys already working with?
So in the propane industry, you don't really see like grandfather type contracts you would, like maybe with oil wells or things like that. You know what I mean, as far as leases and things like that.
Okay.
You may see some like as far as like land leases, maybe where there's some storage or rail or something like that. As far as like contracts for buying and selling fuel or trucking contracts, for certain lanes and things like that. All that stuff's, typically negotiated year in, year out. And most of that gets done right after the end of the busy season. Pretty much set up for the whole next year, and then rinse and repeat. Start all over next year. So
Yep.
sometimes you pick stuff up in between there. Somebody doesn't perform like they should, so they give us a call. Yeah, 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 we can help you out on that. Or sorry, we're already, capacity's already been spoken for the rest of the year. You know what I mean? If we got something freed up, we'll help you out. So some of the people that we work with, AmeriGas, obviously, I think everybody that's pretty household name. Ferrellgas, another household name. Superior Plus, some people may or may not know who that is. They're a Canadian company that they've been buying up some stuff over here in the West in California. Bought a company called United Pacific Energy a few years back. They're pretty big there in that Bay Area and Northern California. And then just recently, this past year, they bought Kiva Energy and Camps.
Wow.
Basically, they were two. It's the same company, just Kiva is the wholesale side of things, and Camps was the retail side of things. Huge merger. It was something like 240 million, something like that.
Wow.
Um, so yeah, so we were working for both Kiva and United Pacific Energy. So when Superior bought, we were already on both sides of it. So it didn't matter when they came in and bought them that we were already on both sides. So
There you go.
yeah, we were already in like plans. So that ended up working out. And then there's this other company that you may or may not have heard of called Marathon Petroleum.
Okay.
I think they're like number 7 in the world or something like
Oh,
that. Right?
my brother-in-law actually works for them up in North Dakota. So yeah, I may have
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
yeah, I might have heard of them.
Right, right. So yeah, so we do, butane products for them. We also do their hot oil products in the summertime as well. So in there,
Oh,
they've been a really good partner as far as things that we've been doing for them, and as far as moving stuff around as a carrier, really is how we've been dealing with them. So yeah, good people over there too. So.
incredible. One of the things your subsidiaries seem to be mostly in the transportation industry. Do you guys have plans to acquire any production companies in the near term or continue to focus on efforts in the fuel transport market?
I would say buying production from a company like that, that's not too far fetched. If we know somewhere that's going to have X amount of production, you know what I mean, we can go in and purchase that production and put it in storage and either resell it or keep it for our own use. But as far as buying a production company, I mean, if we grow to a certain level, I think that's definitely not out of the realm. I would say we're just that's pretty far on the edge there of us being able to,
Yeah,
be able to
you
do
guys got
something
your own
like
little
that.
niche going on. I mean, you're
Yeah,
set
and I
up
mean,
pretty
and
well.
and like I said, we're covering a big spectrum of stuff already. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
From buying the gas to getting it transported down, and then with the retail taking it all the way to the end user. I mean, we're covering a big swath of what's happening, as far as propane energy is concerned already. So.
Definitely. You guys came out and announced this a few months ago, but where is the company in terms of completing the uplisting to the OTCQB?
I don't want to say that it took a back burner to what we're doing, but it definitely kind of got pushed back with the merger and thing. I mean, there was so much stuff that we needed to concentrate on just to get, to the merger, which we're still not complete, right?
Yeah.
So, we get merged over, and then we'll really concentrate on start going up QB. I think we got to get our share structure and our float, figured out, and but we can be working on the QB at the same time, and I have to go back and look at the requirements again, but what I recall was the audited financials. So we have secured reputable auditor, but I mean that process itself is slow as well, especially because we're starting from scratch. So
No.
I think once we get, I would say once we get more acclimated, I would say, I guess would be a good word with the auditor, and that auditor gets acclimated with us, I think things will go a lot smoother and a lot quicker. We are working on it. It's just it really is a slow going process, and they because these audit things, I mean, the person that's doing the auditing has to physically come and put eyes on everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If we're claiming however many tanks we're claiming, you know what I mean? They're going to take a swath of those and physically go out to these people's homes and see that the tank is there and see that the serial number matches what we're saying. You know what I mean? And they got to look at our inventories and everything, all that stuff's got to
Oh,
jive,
it's a lengthy process.
yeah, it's not a fast, and I think that was probably, I think everything else, I don't remember seeing anything else that was going to be an issue as far as going QB. I think it just was, I think the auditing is probably the biggest part of it. So.
I said I was going to circle back. So you've hinted towards cancellation of more restricted shares. Can you take us through the process of what the company had to go through just to complete the first round of cancellations that you announced?
Oh man, that
The fun question.
that was definitely a process. I mean, very, very time consuming type deal. We found a firm that had success with that type of thing. It was Hathaway and Coons, and very, very sharp people over there. And had a lot of conversations on how we were going to get this accomplished. On top of that, we had an extensive list of restricted shareholders. I mean, we're talking 100 plus, 100 plus people
Jeez.
here, and each and every person, and or company, whatever it was that was on the list, they got to be named individually in the complaint. So after we came up with the strategy, then it's I'm so sorry for the poor girl in there that did the complaint, because it was the same thing over and over and over, and you have to name each and every single person. So yeah, that was tough. And then once you get it filed, then you got to try to find these people, So we're out there and we're doing our service and not having a lot of luck with it, and not sure if what's going to happen here. And Henry actually came up with the idea, well, maybe we should hire a private investigator, and he happened to know a very good one. He's an ex FBI agent, about 27 years or so.
Wow.
And yeah, so he knew what he was doing. So we brought him on and said, look, here's our list, here's who we found, here's who we need to find. Can you help us out? And sure enough, went in, and 2 days later he had us, 2-3 addresses and phone numbers and things like that, and sent it over to the attorney, and finally started getting some people found and served. And I really feel like that was, instrumental in getting, the goals accomplished with the court. Kudos to him. So one of the biggest ones that we were having a hard time finding was the ex-CEO, and he was able to track him down. So that ended up being a major victory for us.
Oh yeah, that was a large portion of the shares that were in the restricted.
Yeah, it was a large portion of those restricted shares, and so yeah, being able to get him and get those canceled was a huge victory for us. So after that, we were granted permission to serve by publication here just recently. So we'll just continue through the process and respond to the court as needed, and hopefully we can get the share structure cleaned up just a little bit more and concentrate on moving forward with things.
I like it. I don't think anybody's going to complain about that. It's
Right.
that's one of the more storied things I've seen happen in the OTC. Not everybody, most people just come in, they'll merge in and they'll do a reverse split and get rid of everything and everyone, and everybody's left holding the bag. And you guys are coming in here, taking the time, going through with spending the money on the lawyers, just to go through this.
I kind of feel like our whole story is just different than most people that just come into OTC and things. So but like I said, I think we want to make sure we're doing right by the shareholders and the investors. So we're spending the time to do this right, and make everybody comfortable and show our people that we're gonna do right by everybody that believes in us.
No, I love it. Last question: have you received any guidance from FINRA or on the timeline of the merger completion?
FINRA is in receipt of everything that they've asked from us. They recently just asked for some details from the transfer agent, so I provided the transfer agent with some of those details. And we've signed some stuff for them for the transfer and all that stuff. I would say we're just in a processing stage right now. And by that I mean by the end of the processing stage. This is kind of the last little bit of paperwork that they need, I think, before they can go ahead and announce that this is a done deal. So yeah, I'd say we're really close, barring any additional info needed to get this thing processed. So yeah, I'm expecting it to happen very soon.
Excellent. That's great to hear. Well, thank you very much for coming on. This is all the time we have today. Definitely look forward to seeing the finalization of the merger between Titan NRG and AgriSolar Solutions, ticker symbol AGSO. Thank you for coming on today, Alex, and giving us the insight to who and what Titan NRG is all about. We look forward to doing this again down the line.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for having me and giving our listeners the opportunity to learn and learn more about us, so they can see what we're about. So.
Excellent. Well, again, thank you, and we'll talk to you soon.
All righty. Sounds good.